But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Okay, wrong window there. Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, Untitled Anarchist Seagull, called Elise. And we're taking that down for a second. Why is that like that? Okay. Usually I make sure to check that in advance of going live, but there we are. How's everybody doing, chat? I'm your host, an untitled anarchist seagull called Elise. And this is a stream where we're going to just find out what jabronis are on what bullshit this week. Hello, Emily's. And support as well the crowdfunded translation project. I am currently on $755 out of my current project's fundraising goal of $1,200. I kind of urgently need the remainder to cover a couple of urgent bills like insurance and some other shit like that. All support is very much appreciated, and if you want to read the finished translations in the project, of which there are quite a few at this point, you can find those here. And this other link is where you will find where donations are always very much welcome. I wouldn't want anyone to do it if they can't, if it would cause them any problems. But if you can and you'd like to, it is always very, very much appreciated. And before we get started, I also wanted to introduce you to a little guy who I just kind of invented. It is Termip. Termip is a character I came up with when I was making a birthday card for a good friend, and it occurred to me that after I'd drawn what I had thought of to draw, it was kind of missing something. And the more I thought of it, the more I realized it was missing Termip. So, and I like Termip. So I have decided Termip is going to be with us for a while. And I've created a little page to host the Termip webcomic, and you will find it there. I know, it was just like I had my anarchist seagull and my anti-horseshoe crab having a little birthday party for my friend, and it's like that looks okay, but I feel like there's nothing that actually makes this pop. And so I started to draw little termips on top of them and between them, and all just saying, "Am Termip." And so that's Termip. And we're going to be getting to know Termip, I think, over the next little while at least. But first, I thought we might check in on our old buddy, everybody's favorite guy, Ben Shapiro. He says that evil left-wing ideas have consequences. And just let me know if the audio needs any kind of adjusting, as always, as we find out about the evil left-wing ideas and their consequences.
Someone you know, a household name, just said that President Trump opposes Jesus by fighting the Iranian radical Islamic tyranny.
Oh, well, no, I think what it might have been was that he decided to depict himself as Jesus and then threatened the Pope with a military coup or something like that. Which, I mean, like, is peak Orange Man. I will give you that. Like, the OG kind of Orange Man, too. The orangest kind of man.
That same person just said that people who oppose the Iranian regime are themselves evil.
Really, who is this person who said this? I feel like it's going to turn out this is a person who did not say this.
And that they are trying to deceive you that Islam is the enemy. Also, those same...
I mean, yes, they are trying to deceive you that Islam is the enemy. I mean, capital is the enemy.
Terrible people are turning President Trump into a slave. Is that famous person Zohran Mamdani? Is it the new leadership in Iran? No, of course not. It's Tucker Carlson.
we got fash on fash crime coming up. Yeah, I mean, I was like, okay, so this isn't an evil left-wing idea already. This is just fash shit, but it's different fash shit. Like,
Now, listen, maybe Tucker's just lost it. That
he's been doing this shit all along, though, actually, in some form or another.
of course, would be the kindest explanation for what's happening right now. And if that lets you sleep easier at night, well, then more power to you. Or maybe he's being paid off by a foreign power. But I don't have evidence of that, so I'm not going to...
I mean, it wouldn't be... It would be totally implausible for a far-right figure to be taking money from a foreign power to pull.
allege it. And, frankly, that answer seems too easy. No, I think Tucker Carlson is saying all of these crazy things for the worst reason of all.
Because he's a fascist opportunist and he's realized that the smart money is going to be getting in on the very small niche group of far right-wing assholes who don't actually like Zionism, and so he's going to have to pretend that he didn't spend his entire career scaremongering against Muslims.
He actually believes them. What he is doing is purposeful and terrible and anti-American. He wants to demoralize Americans, to tell us that America itself is fatally flawed, Islamophobic, run by a secret cabal.
I mean, like, secret cabals and shit, that's just, like, your friend circle is who says that kind of bullshit.
Its institutions corrupted, its central principles nefarious. If he can wreck how Americans think about America...
I'm guessing we're not going to find a whole lot to back this up, because I don't think that he says the central principles are nefarious, because that's not his grift.
And maybe he can pave the way to something he likes better. Well, you know who else believes all of that? Hassan Piker, Zohran Mamdani.
No, they don't.
Bernie Sanders. Yeah.
No, I mean, he definitely doesn't.
Solos, for that matter. Which is why, right now, they seem to all be on the same side. Well, meanwhile, Erica Kirk, the wife of Charlie Kirk, was forced to cancel a live event last night with the...
Yeah, because the ticket sales weren't good. It turned out there was hardly any audience for her, and so she decided she was going to give it a miss. And the best part is that J.D. Vance filled in for her. Like, that's all he is. He is second fiddle to Erica Kirk now.
Vice president, thanks to security concerns.
So there were security concerns for Erica Kirk, but a sitting vice president who has a Secret Service detail that goes with him everywhere because of constant security concerns. It was okay. It was safe for him. Whatever was going on was totally safe for him, but not for Erica Kirk. Yes, I know. That's kind of how this works. Hello, wasteful furball.
Now, you may be saying to yourself, those stories have nothing to do with one another. Wrong. These stories are part of the same broader story.
Yeah, well, yes, the far-right schism.
When any movement humors its grifters, its crazies, the real-world consequences are disastrous.
This is... okay, but your movement is just grifters. It is just people who are grifting and full of shit, though.
This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Part of his newsletter on Islam, and it blew a lot of minds. Not necessarily my mind, because of course I've been watching what's been going on with Tucker Carlson for a while now, but...
and plus, like, there's not a whole lot to blow.
He put out via X, quote, "The people in charge don't want you to know this, but Muslims love Jesus."
I mean, yes, actually. I mean, Jesus is a prophet in Islam.
So first of all, the people in charge don't want... Who are the people in charge? Donald Trump doesn't want you to know this?
I mean, it doesn't really seem like it, because he slags Muslims off all the time, like Tucker Carlson did until 5 minutes ago when he decided that there was a better career move to make.
He's the president. J.D. Vance doesn't want you to know... Who are the people in charge? Who are these nefarious others? I have some ideas as to who Tucker is talking about, but it says the people in charge don't want you to know this, but Muslims love Jesus. Islam reveres him as a major prophet and messenger of the Lord, believes he performs miracles, and states that he will return to Earth to defeat the Antichrist. That's why Donald Trump's painting depicting himself as the Son of God offended the president of Iran. It was an attack on his religion as well as Christianity. Are you getting all this? According to Tucker Carlson, Remember that.
Well, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to get. Hello, Tomas. How you doing?
Painting, that AI painting that President Trump put up and took down, where he said he thought he was a doctor, and people thought, oh no, he's like Jesus there.
Well, yeah, because he was very clearly fucking Jesus.
According to Tucker Carlson, Iran was offended by that image.
I mean, they said that they were. He probably does not know better than anyone, but they expressed offense at that image.
They weren't using that image to divide Americans. No, they were offended by the image because, of course, it was an attack on Islam and also Christianity. That's how wonderful Iran is.
Well, it's possible to say that they actually that they believe in their religion, which, I mean, officially they do seem quite serious about being the Islamic Republic and all that. And so it is quite, it is possible to say that something is propaganda and it is sincere. Those two things are not impossible to combine. But, okay, the grift here, but this is not something that Ben is ever going to point out, is that Tucker Carlson doesn't believe a word of this shit. He's the same Islamophobic asshole he was 5 minutes ago. He's just on a new grift.
According to Tucker Carlson Network, today's Morning Note newsletter covers Masoud Pezeshkian's condemnation of...
Masoud Pezeshkian? Like, it's not even a hard name to pronounce. Masoud Pezeshkian. Like, there are no difficult consonants or vowels in that. Masoud Pezeshkian? Like, what, did you lose your dentures?
Trump's desecration of Jesus. The Iran war's gutting effect on America's housing market, because the housing market was doing amazing before. And also Colombia's plans to murder Pablo Escobar's hippopotami. Yes, I did petting zoo. All the important news fit to print over at Tucker Carlson Network. Now, is that true? What do Muslims actually believe about Jesus? Now listen, I'm a Jew.
Oh, great. Now Ben Shapiro's going to tell us what Muslims believe. I mean, just because it wasn't enough to hear Tucker Carlson tell us about what Muslims believe, now that he's decided to pretend to like them, in this very specific context, we get to hear Ben Shapiro tell us too. This should be great.
Is that I do not believe in the divinity of Jesus. I also believe, as an Orthodox Jew, that Judaism is not the only path to heaven. Judaism as a religion is not exclusive, meaning that as long as people who are not Jewish follow 7 basic Noahide laws...
Okay, this is great. Thank you for this. This is definitely not going to increase anti-Semitism in the world, Ben. Thank you for this.
And this includes Christians and Muslims. They, too, have a share in the world to come. And those 7 basic laws are things like no blasphemy, don't commit sexual sins, set up a court of law, make sure that you're not eating flesh from a living animal, stuff like that. Which is why I can say, and frequently do if you listen to the show, that you as a Christian should go to church. It is good for you to go to church. You know what? Religious Muslims can't say. They can't say that. And the reason they can't say that is because religious Muslims believe that everyone needs to be a Muslim.
No, that's actually wrong already. Because Muslims consider Jews and Christians to be people of the book. That's why they don't traditionally convert them. But let's skip this. Let's see what else we got, because I wanted to hear about the evil left-wing ideas. Although I have very low patience for Ben, so we may not stick with him for very long. Ben is no Termip.
Into interpretation, and the advocates for scriptures should be taken at their word. That's not what I'm doing here. The point that I'm making is that Tucker is deliberately misrepresenting the rule of radical Islam in the world. He's deliberately misrepresenting Sharia law. He is deliberately attempting to create...
I mean, one way that you can totally show that you are absolutely a genuine Islam expert and should totally talk about these things is to say Sharia law, which is like saying law.
A narrative. To create a narrative. Here's Tucker Carlson on Islam over the course of the last few months and years.
For whatever it's worth, a pretty fervent Christian, and I feel completely comfortable here in the seat of Islam.
If you have a society in which people bow down before God 5 times a day, I'm not against that. I should bow down before God 5 times a day. And I wish I lived around people who bow down before God 5 times a day.
But you go to golf and that.
Yeah, I mean, does it matter how many times? I mean, for Muslims it does, but I don't see why he cares how many times.
It's incredible. incredible to be in a place that has pride in itself, that believes
Correct.
in its religion and culture, that thinks we're onto something. This is great. Look what we're doing. We're really proud of this. Those people are happy. They're welcoming of others. They're tolerant of diversity. They're into things that I'm not into, like, I don't know,
I know,
polygamy or Islam.
termites are much more honest. Termites just want to be, you know, they just want to eat cellulose, basically. I believe that's what they're getting out of eating wood. And they just go about that. And you just put them in a place and they'll do their thing. Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson do not even aspire to the integrity of a termite.
And I can sort of look at it and be like, no one's forcing this on me. I'm not mad at you for being a polygamist.
I mean, there's a clip.
What now? What now? I mean, all this relies on the ignorance of the population about what radical Muslim states are like, what Sharia law states are like. And Tucker may feel perfectly comfortable over in Riyadh, but I promise you that people converting to Christianity in Saudi Arabia aren't feeling quite as comfortable.
I wonder who it is who props up the regime in Saudi Arabia, incidentally, Ben. Could it be a country that you are, like, constantly grifting for?
These days. The same thing is true in Iran, where there's an actual fatwa out that if you convert to Christianity, you can be executed. Coming up in a moment, we'll get to why Tucker Carlson's doing all of this. I know a lot of theories out there. We'll get to it. You know, I've been working with Pure Talk for 6 years now. I wanted to work with a wireless company that actually shares my values.
A wireless company that shares my values. Shut the fuck. Okay, we're skipping ahead a little bit more. And pretty soon we're just going to skip Ben altogether because he's starting to bore me.
Finished reading the Bible for the first time a couple of years ago, and he is a frequent spouter of the Marcion heresy, an early heresy rejected by the Catholic Church.
Marcy is in the Workers' World Party?
Suggested that the Old Testament could be completely read out of the New Testament. And Tucker, so Tucker is rewriting Christianity so that it is in line with Islam.
Well, I mean, rewriting Christianity is kind of not an unusual thing to do, though. Like, I mean, have you noticed how many fucking denominations there are? Lots of people have rewritten or reinterpreted Christianity in all sorts of different ways. I mean, we're watching a whole new schism happen right now with this beef between J.D. Vance and the Pope.
But not in any way alone.
I mean, J.D. Vance, I think I think he's now going by the name Martin Loser.
With Judaism, which, again, is the source of the first half of the book for Christians. In any case, then he gets to his point. Neocons have brainwashed the U.S. public into thinking Middle Eastern terrorists lust for American blood because they are Muslim. But it is not true.
I mean, no notes on the content of that statement, but it is wild hearing Tucker Carlson talk about that like that's something somebody else was doing. Because he's been doing all that shit.
They behave because they do. Because they are evil criminals. Oh, I see. So terrorists do what they do because they're evil criminals, but it has nothing to do with their belief system.
I mean, this is actually a really shitty take as well, because, like, okay, first of all, how are we defining terrorists? Usually it just means people the U.S. doesn't like. The term is completely meaningless beyond that. But quite apart from that, I think often the people who the U.S. calls terrorists are doing the things that they're doing against the U.S. because the U.S. keeps on fucking up their countries. But of course Tucker Carlson will not admit this. Because, like, in his version of the grift, one of the biggest lies is that the U.S. would never have done anything at all objectionable if it weren't for Israel. Which is just...
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And notice again, Tucker completely obliterates the distinction between Islam as a doctrine and the behavior of a very sizable portion of Muslims across the world.
I wouldn't exactly call it sizable when you're talking about a population of 2 billion.
Which is pretty radical. Which is fairly radical. You know?
Okay, well, it's fairly radical. Now, okay, do Israeli Jews. What do the polls say about them?
These are radical belief systems, and they exist in the world. But Tucker is trying to pretend that actually the only reason that a Muslim would be a terrorist has to do with either blowback at the United States or because they're just violent criminals. You know, they're just kind of like Hannibal Lecter. You know, people. people who just have a screw loose or something, which ignores, pretty much every fact on the ground. According to truly evil people, according to Tucker Carlson,
Well,
Wade
I
Fritt.
mean, not necessarily every fact.
Wade Fritt, you're not going to believe it. Quote, anyone seeking destruction can use any of the major religions to justify their violence.
I mean, that's not wrong either. See, that's the thing when it comes to people like this. They will say things that are entirely unobjectionable, at least a fair percentage of the time. And the thing is where they take them eventually. It's the ride they're taking you on. Caleb Maupin does the same thing.
Benjamin Netanyahu proves it every time he invokes Amalek to excuse his mass killings of innocents. Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's funny, Ben. That's hilarious. Like, we've been watching this live stream. Even your fucking audience has been watching this live streamed.
Again, likening terrorist groups to Benjamin Netanyahu.
I mean, it's an insult to terrorist groups. Good point.
Okay. For those who don't know, the Old Testament, and I count Tucker among them because he clearly has very little fluency with it. I have some fluency with it, since I've gone through it, 50 times in the original Hebrew at this point. But if we are talking about Amalek, Amalek is a nation that attacked the Israelites as they were coming out of Egypt.
Yes, and that's not who fucking Netanyahu and, Zionist right-wingers mean when they're talking about it. They just use it to mean anyone the regime doesn't like. Mostly, however, Palestinians.
And there's an injunction in the Bible that Jews are supposed to remember what Amalek did to them.
Which is interesting because there's also an injunction that says to blot out the memory of Amalek. So you're supposed to remember what Amalek did at the same time as blotting out the memory.
And they're supposed to wipe out the memory of Amalek. Now,
the Old Testament needed an editor. Let's just be honest. Somebody really needed to get in there and just point out this is a bit internally inconsistent here. Do you want to remember it or do you want to not remember it?
Here is the thing. No one knows who Amalek is.
I mean, I've actually heard a number of theorists think it might possibly have been Armenians. But the point is, we know who Amalek is when Netanyahu says it. Because there is a very specific history of using that term in the entity.
This is black letter Hebrew law doctrine. This is Jewish law doctrine. No one knows who Amalek is. And thus, the injunction to quote-unquote wipe out Amalek does not apply to any group of people.
Okay, then explain why Netanyahu keeps saying it, if it doesn't apply to any group of people. So he's just saying that for no reason? Like, that's just his thing? Like, when you leave a room and say, stay fresh cheese bags?
That's not the way it works. When Benjamin Netanyahu invokes Amalek, he invokes it as an idea of evil.
Well, no, he invokes it as a specific group of people. The same group of people that Israeli right-wingers have been calling that for a very long time now. Like, literally longer than Ben Shapiro's been on this earth.
And he invokes it specifically with regard to Hamas, a terrorist group.
Hamas. No, I mean, no.
But of course, Tucker wants to claim that Jews are genocidal.
And I'm not pushing back on that because Tucker is anti-Semitic. He does want to conflate.
Because that allows him to support people who actually are, in fact, genocidal and pretend that Hamas is, in fact, just a political group or whatever. If Islam were the issue, says Tucker Carlson, like the establishment wants you to believe. The establishment. Neocon.
Yeah, admit it, fucking Tucker Carlson isn't part of the establishment. Well, I mean, somebody made up the history of the Old Testament. Well, of course he's running defense for genocide. I mean, it's Ben Shapiro. He's telling us about how evil left-wing ideas have consequences, and here he is, trying to explain why one of the most genocidal quotes from Benjamin Netanyahu in the past few years is nothing to do with anything. Actually.
Indonesia poses America a grave national security threat. For Far Eastern nations, the Far Eastern nation has the world's largest Muslim population. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh rank second, third, and fourth. None of them threaten the U.S. either because Islam is not the enemy. Okay, so...
I mean, what's wild about this is that these are points that people have been invoking against Tucker Carlson during the very long time in which he was scaremongering against Muslims too. All he's done, these aren't like sudden epiphanies he had. This is just the stuff that people point out when somebody comes up with this genocidal bullshit about Muslims being the problem.
Let's be pretty clear. Indonesia is a relatively peaceful state.
I mean, not unless you're a Papuan. If you're in West Papua, it's not a particularly peaceful place.
Itself had to deal with radical Islamist terrorism for decades. Remember the Bali bombing of 2002? And of course, they've also moved in the direction of more Sharia-friendly law over the course of the last 20 years or so. Pakistan, it's hard to make the case that Pakistan is not deeply enmeshed in Islamist terror. There's a reason why the United States did not coordinate with Pakistani security services in taking out Osama bin Laden. It is
I mean, they did, though. They literally had to, because they invaded Pakistan's territory. Of course, the Pakistani government couldn't go say, yeah, we allowed the U.S. to violate the territory and set up as a fake vaccination operation that is causing... And the fact that they did that is actually causing public health problems in Pakistan to this day, because nobody will trust a vaccination drive, because the fucking Delta Force used it. It used that as cover.
Pakistan is a nuclear threat to India. They also happen to be a Sharia law state with some of the worst anti-Christian conditions anywhere on planet Earth.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we want to talk about Israel on that? Because they've been kind of having a moment with Christians.
How about India? He claims that, Islam is not a problem in India. Well, I mean...
well, incitement against Muslims is kind of a problem in India. But, okay, this is... I tire of fucking... Ben Shapiro, so I think we're going to switch over to another of our favorite little guys. Still happy with that animation. Okay, see, it turns out Caleb Muppet has decided to get angry about what he's calling a Trotskyite anti-Christian song from the early 1980s. It's true. The video is called "Two Christians React to Trotskyite Anti-Christian Song, Stand Up for Judas." It's... So, okay,
Two really great guests who are going to join us. So,
and they're both members of his cult.
We've got Luke from 12 Gates. Welcome, Luke. Right?
Thank you.
What the hell is 12 Gates? Never heard of 12 Gates? The 12 Gates. Okay, it's a Revolution reference. Okay, I'm not finding anything when I Google this because it's all references to the biblical quote.
Keep having me.
But the fact that he's going on this show, it tells us a lot about him already.
And we got Gavin, who's a CPI member from Illinois.
So we got one. So we got a cult member and his ideological leader.
Well,
So good to be here.
So, basically tonight, we're going to have both of these guys react to a piece of music. But before we do that, I guess maybe, we have quite a diverse panel here.
No, I mean, we got all kinds of white dudes.
I think the audience knows.
Like, I mean, you got white dude from New York, you got white dude from Illinois, you got wherever the hell 12 Gates white dude is from. He's a Patriots fan. That's Richard Spencer's favorite club. I'm sure that's a coincidence.
who I am, so I don't need to introduce myself. But maybe Luke and then Gavin should introduce themselves and their faith perspective and what they think they can contribute to the conversation here tonight. So go ahead, Luke.
Hi, thank you for having me, Caleb. My name is Luke Jean. I run the channel The 12 Gates. I'm a unificationist, which is a Korean-based Christian.
Oh, okay. The Moonies. He's got the Mooney. This guy likes to accuse everybody of being a CIA front. The Moonies literally are one. They were founded by the South Korean Central Intelligence Agency, which, particularly in those days, was just a wholly owned subsidiary of Langley. Like, they are a hardline, right-wing, fascist, anti-communist cult. They own the Washington Times, which is a newspaper you see all over Washington, D.C., not the Washington Post, which, I mean, these days, actually, the editorial standards are not too different. But okay, so Caleb, this is the second time I've seen him bringing on the fucking Moonies.
Group located in South Korea and founded by Reverend Sung Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. Although it originated in Korean Christianity, it presents itself, unificationism presents itself as a interdenominational, even perhaps trans-religious
cult
movement seeking world peace through families.
Oh.
And
I mean, the wild thing about this even more is if you go back a little bit, and I don't even mean all that far, like you go back a couple of years and you can find fucking Caleb Muppet. Actually, I believe this may be in one of his shitty books. It might have been in the book about BreadTube. Him talking about the fact that the Unification Church, by Moon Sun-myung's cult, is a CIA front, and here he is sitting down with them.
A member of this movement, I go to a local Family Federation church or Unificationist church, and that's my background, and my channel focuses on theology and philosophy.
I'm kind of curious that we've got a book about Stalin behind him, and I have a feeling that it's probably from a rather different perspective than the books about Stalin that are behind Caleb Muppet.
But I'm always interested to talk religion, even on political shows such as yours, Caleb, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it would be so unusual for the Unification Church to be political.
Hey, good to have you here, Luke. And Gavin?
I mean, the Unification Church, it's worth noting, also is massively influential in the Japanese far right. Like, they're all over the Liberal Democratic Party, the party that has ruled Japan basically since the war. They're very connected in the current Takaichi government, but in general, like, there really is not a right-wing government in Japan that is not connected to the Unification Church. And one of the reasons for this is that the Unification Church has found a way to sort of split the difference on Japan's colonial atrocities against Korea. Because they basically say that you can be forgiven for Japan's atrocities against Korea if you pay money to the Unification Church. So they kind of they're kind of like Korean Zionists in that sense, and they probably are Zion. Let me check that. I've never... Korean Unification Church is Zionism. Yeah. Okay, so they're also quite pro-Israel. I kind of figured they were, because for the most part, I mean, the Korean far right can be counted on to be the most abject lackeys to the United States. I mean, to the extent that there was discussion about allowing the South Korean military to operate independently, you know, be accountable only to the Korean government, rather than the current arrangement where the U.S. immediately assumes full control over them if there's a state of war. And it was the Korean far right, like the Unification Church, who came out rabidly opposing that. So, I mean, very anti-imperialist of Caleb to have this guy on. Very anti-imperialist. It's not at all suspicious that a guy who's like, the one thing that he is really kind of consistent on in his grift is his supposed anti-imperialism, and he's sucking up to the Unification Church.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Gavin Lockard. I'm from Moline, Illinois, which is right on the border of Iowa. And I originally, I was raised in a very secular home that didn't particularly believe in God, but as I became a young adult, I started to see scientific evidence that the Bible could be true.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Caleb knows how to pick 'em. Somebody who falls for this will fall for any cult. Caleb is,
particularly Genesis. But for a few years, I kind of struggled with the issue of eternal salvation and eternal security, and I believed in a kind of works-based salvation. But the more I read my Bible,
workspace salvation, like, I mean, so when you save your workspace so that you can get back to it after you reboot your computer,
especially my New Testament, the more I led to me to believe what I currently believe, which is that we are saved by faith alone, in Christ alone, through no one else, and that the faith that saves is a plain mental assent that does not lead to a changed life, not necessarily.
Wow, that is so convenient. I mean, it's always amazing when you hear these versions, this form of sort of right-wing Christianity, because it's like, you basically do not have to become even a better person. You can still be as much of a piece of shit as you were before. All you have to do is believe, and it's cool. That's, I mean, like, so, it's like literally no moral content at all, really. In fact, I got street preached at one time at a bus stop years and years ago from a couple of guys who insisted that actually the more good works you do, the more it increases your debt. So actually, you're closer to heaven if you're an asshole, according to their theology. So, I mean, I always find this stuff fascinating. It's just such a convenient ideology to have.
So I'm coming at it from an extreme perspective in many Christians' views. I'm a fundamentalist. I prefer that term rather than evangelical because I don't want to be associated with worldliness and horrible modern perversions of the Bible. So yeah, let's have a conversation.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a wonderful conversation. I can already tell.
You're an independent fundamental Baptist?
Yeah, that's right. I'm an independent fundamental Baptist.
All right.
God. Okay. I mean, this is gonna be classic.
Okay, so the reason I got these guys here today is they're both really experts on the topic of religion, and they both come from one interpretation of Christianity. Very.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a good question that Caleb didn't ask. I mean, and especially saying Genesis. So I mean. What, so we decided that creationism required less thought, I guess.
Different interpretations of Christianity. And they're both my friends, I'll just mention that too.
I mean, which again, you can choose to be on friendly terms with the Moonies, or you can be credible in anti-imperialism. But Caleb Maupin he doesn't really care about being credible to most people. He wants to be credible to the sort of people who will give him money. And those are like some of the biggest rubes you can find.
They're both friends of mine. And about a year ago, or I guess maybe 2-3 years ago, I came across this very, very anti-Christian song by Leon Rosselin, who was a kind of a leftist socialist folk singer in Britain. And Leon Rosselin, this is an image of him. I guess, you know, he's still alive, and he's been a lifelong socialist. And his music, his main publisher is PM Press, which is kind of an anarchist publishing house that's headquartered in New York City and in Britain. And they promote his work and sell his albums. And I found a bio of him. It said, Rosselson, the son of a Stalin worshiper who never really lost faith, could see the intellectual and human absurdities and cruelties of socialism as practiced by Russia and its client states, but wasn't at all sure it was any worse than the consumerism, greed, selfishness, and international bullying of the US-led free world.
Okay. Now, I'm very curious okay. Already, this could be an interesting topic of discussion for them to be talking about with a Mooney. I mean, we know that CPI Gavin is going to fucking defer to Caleb on everything because, yeah.
That's how he describes
well, this guy isn't even an anarchist. Well, I mean, Caleb calls him a Trotsky. Fuck knows what that really means because I don't think Caleb is necessarily a good judge of it. But
describes himself. So I guess his father was a Stalin supporter, a member of the Communist Party in Britain. But
I mean, which one? There's the Communist Party of Great Britain, the Communist Party of Britain. They had a big split in 1956.
He's kind of a new left Trotskyist, something like that. He's been singing songs since the 1960s, and he's got all kinds of albums about world peace. And one of his songs I actually do like, which is called the Song of the Old Communist, I believe, and it's kind of a reflective piece. But I discovered this very anti-Christian song that he's never actually apologized for. He does have an essay he wrote in the 2000s that kind of is like, well, maybe this wasn't the right thing to say.
Ah, damn it. Oh, let me fix this.
Or whatever, but he's never really apologized for this song. So before we play it, I guess
why would he apologize for it?
I guess so. Luke is hearing it for the first time with fresh ears. Gavin heard it for the first time earlier today. So I guess we don't want to give anything away, Gavin, and I guess Luke can't give anything away.
I mean, apologizing for taking for writing a song that takes a different view of major figures in Christian mythology than Christians have. I mean,
because he never heard it before. But is there anything...
I mean, if that's something to apologize for, then members of every other fucking religion also, for some reason, need to be apologizing to Christians.
Anything you want to say before we put this song on, and then I let you guys react to it?
Well, before you revealed him as a Trotskyist...
Revealed him. Like, we're just kind of accepting that this is what he is now, because Caleb said so. He himself said that this is actually kind of an anarchist press, and I wouldn't disagree too much with that. I mean, they don't only publish anarchist stuff.
I was going to say, this is Trotskyism 101.
Wow, yes, absolutely Trotskyism 101. I mean, the first thing that they do in Trotskyism 101 is that you support Judas at the Last Supper, I guess.
You start, that like you were reading his biography, and he was saying that the Soviet Union and the USA are both bad. It's like, I've heard that a million times.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure Trots would love to hear that.
And Luke?
Well, it's interesting that his father was a Stalin worshipper. In unificationism, Stalin is seen as a actually antichrist figure.
Yeah, that's it. This is going to be interesting if they don't avoid a whole lot of fucking topics. This could be very entertaining in all sorts of unintended ways.
You can believe it.
If you can believe it, the right wing cult that was like co-founded by the CIA, they don't think very highly of the Soviet Union
because the way his imagery and iconography was displayed in many parts of Soviet Russia not so much as economic policy, although unificationism has some literature on that, but more so the
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
Imagery. So it's interesting to hear that kind of description. He seems to be rebelling against the worshipping, or what he perceives to be worship of a certain figure. So that stood out to me.
All right. Well, very interesting. So if anyone has trouble hearing the lyrics or whatever, the lyrics are here. I linked the lyrics in the chat, and I'll put them in the private messages for the guests as well. So you can look over the lyrics in case there's any
that's
question about it. But
I hate to say this, but that's not a bad idea. So stand up for Judas lyrics. Okay, I'm going to drop these in chat so that everybody can read along if you want to. I mean, I've never heard of this song, I will have to say. But so the line that... Okay, so the approach he seems to be taking here is essentially that Judas felt that Jesus was not taking a hard enough line against the Romans, which actually... It sounds very much like certain bits of the life of Brian, now that I think of it.
Might as well get to it. And I guess, I know we don't want to be snowflakes here, but I mean, trigger warning. This is a very, very, very anti-Christian song. I have never heard a song that is more anti-Christian than this.
Really? I should send some of my playlists.
Oh, Gavin's giving me a thumbs down. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Just signifying that the song is bad. Yeah.
Like, it's a bad song, or it just disagrees with you religiously?
Yeah, it's very, very bad, and I am offended by it on many levels. And
I mean, one interesting thing to note, actually, there's a great video on this, on the Rev and Rev channel, called Anti-Semitism Weaponized, and one of the things that Adi on that channel, he points out, is actually the term in English and European languages. The term Jew does not have anything to do with Judah or Judea or anything like that. It is a term that actually was developed by Christians when it was already becoming a hegemonic religion to define the other, and to define the other by reference to Judas, actually. So, okay, so I have a feeling we might be getting into some very interesting anti-Semitisms here.
I assume Luke will be as well. So just, trigger warning, everybody. But the lyrics are there.
This motherfucker will not put a trigger warning on anything. He already just, the idea of acknowledging PTSD, he said, we don't want to be snowflakes here. Using, alt-right terminology from a decade ago. But somebody having a challenging perspective on Jesus is something that requires a trigger warning. This motherfucker, let's remember, is a sexual predator. But what requires a trigger warning is somebody having a somewhat heterodox take on Jesus.
Now, we might as well just get right into it. This is Leon Rosselson's own performance of his song, which I said he's never actually apologized for. He's danced around, maybe I shouldn't have done this, whatever, but he's never apologized for it.
Let's note, it isn't actually Leon Rosselson's song. He's performed it, but it was written by Dick Gaughan, as you will see if you look at those lyrics.
Regrets it on some level. 1977, Leon Rosselson's Stand Up for Judas.
Romans were the masters when Jesus walked the land. In Judea and in Galilee they ruled with an iron hand, and the poor were sick with hunger.
Okay, Oh, my mother apparently can hear me. Can hear the music, and she's like, "Are you in church down there?" And it's like, oh, I was like, tell you later. I probably won't, because I don't think she even wants to hear all the fucking backstory she needs to understand why we're looking at these three dickheads. But yeah.
And the rich were clothed in splendor, and the rebels whipped and crucified hung rotting as a warning. And Jesus knew the answer, said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's," said, "Love your enemies." But Judas was a zealot, and he wanted to be free.
No, he sounds very Scouser. Is Leon Rosselson from Liverpool? Born Bolton, yeah, I was gonna say Northern, certainly. No, he's from Harrow.
He said, "The Romans' tyranny." So stand up for Judas and the cause that Judas served. It was Jesus who betrayed the poor with his word.
Okay.
Jesus was a conjurer, miracles were his game, and he fed the hungry.
Oh, CPI Gavin is shaking his head. Because that's right, because he found the scientific evidence for Genesis.
3,000s, and they glorified his name. He cured the lame and the lepers.
I mean, the facial expressions are an interesting study here. You have Luke from the Unification Church, who is utterly stone-faced. You have Gavin, who's like, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. And you have Caleb, who's like, okay. I mean, look at... yeah, well, yeah, I know. Because he decided that this would be a thing that he could do. I mean, look at his face, though. He has that crooked smile, like, okay, I'm stirring some shit here. We're talking about this song, I think, because Caleb needed to find some new material. I think that's what this comes down to, because this song is older than anyone in this panel. The song is older than me. This song is like, I mean, this is performed in 77. It was written well before that.
He calmed the wind and the weather, and the wretched flocked to touch him, so their troubles would be taken. And Jesus knew the answer. All you...
In his fucking neo-Russian peasant shirt there that he's wearing too.
Who labor, all you who suffer, only believe in me. But Judas sought a world where no one starved or begged for bread. The poor are always with us, Jesus said. So stand up for Judas.
I mean, I don't know. Somebody would actually, I don't know whether there is whether this is just Dick Gaughan's total imagination of like the ideological motivations of Judas. I don't fucking know. Or, because he's more or less making him out to be a communist. Which, I mean, it's like, they're pissed off about it because it is offensive to, like, Christians. But it's like, on a certain level, it also seems like it's not necessarily it's not necessarily great for communists on a certain level, because you're basically saying that, quite unnecessarily policing a hostile position there.
And the cause that Judas served, it was Jesus who betrayed the poor with his word.
Oh, Luke is writing something down now, too. I don't know, there are probably some people, I mean, I actually have never listened to Leon Russellson, but, like, my playlists span more or less an entire century. I mean, it's like everything from, like, Edith Piaf and Phil Oakes to Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and La Mano de Filippi. Cualquier wea, al final. And then, like, the Moranbong Band. I like this tempo. Okay. Gonna skip ahead. We have the lyrics. Because I want to hear what these jabronis have to say.
So put no trust in saviors, Judas said, for everyone must be to his or her own self a son.
All right. Well, that was certainly.
I mean, like, that last verse is basically, I should note, if you look at the lyrics, which I linked in chat, the last verse is just sort of an elaboration on a verse from the International. I mean, there's a whole line. I mean, it's different. It's phrased somewhat differently depending on what language, but it's like, essentially, don't look to saviors. Be your own savior instead.
Not pleasant to sit through.
I mean, actually, Caleb seemed to be enjoying it. I mean, on a certain level, I think he's trying to do a sort of a Jerry Springer kind of thing here.
But,
like, look at, even now, if you look at he's got, like, this impish thing going on. He actually enjoyed doing that. But he doesn't want to show it.
I've actually used that song in a class. I used it in one class I did on Trotskyism in Portland. I played it as an example of Trotskyite thinking.
Wow, yes, because if there's one thing Trotskyists all love, it's that song. I mean, all the Trotskyists sing that song. Like, I know lots of Trotskyists. I've never heard that fucking song. I mean, I'm sure, like, I know some, like, older Trotskyists in England who almost certainly have at least a couple of Leon Russellson albums lying around that wouldn't surprise me, but, like, this song is basically unknown.
And
I mean, largely forgotten.
I guess, you know...
And I say this as somebody who listens to a lot of obscure leftist folk music.
You have some more information I can share about the background or whatever, but I think we should let Luke react since he's hearing it for completely the first time. I mean, how did this strike you, Luke? What stood out for you?
What didn't?
Well, it's all based on a total misreading of the Bible. It's all based on, in the first stanza, in the first set of lyrics, where he's talking about how, well, Jesus said, pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but he's leaving out the other part, which is, well, you pay unto God what is God.
Well, yeah, because that's not the point. The point he's clearly making is, why is any of this shit Caesar's? I mean, that's the point, really, I think fairly obviously, that, like, why is anything in Palestine Caesar's to begin with? Like, why should he be entitled to any of this shit?
The teaching is not, oh, just, pay Caesar, pay your taxes, just be a good little Roman. That's not what he's saying at all. It's a total misreading of that verse in the Bible, and that's the starting point of everything else he says in the song, because what does the chorus talk about? The chorus talks about how Jesus didn't serve the poor and save the poor. He sold out the poor, and it was...
Well, yes, because, I mean, like, he's taking... It is a radical reframing of the entire thing. I mean, this is fairly obvious.
It's Judas who actually somehow was fighting for the poor. That's just, I'm surprised at the massive biblical inaccuracy.
Wow, he's surprised at I mean, because that's what you go to your Trotskyist folk singers from the 1970s for, is their biblical accuracy.
You don't need to be. You can be any. You can be a Catholic, a Protestant, evangelical, Baptist, unificationist, and yet still.
First of all, I mean, it's hard not to notice that he's only just listed types of Christian, but that's not exactly all that surprising, to be honest.
You can't come to that conclusion without a lot of effort. So.
Well, did anyone say that it had to be effortless?
That's my initial reaction. It's based off of a total reading of a.
Like, did he think that the point of this song was to, was just to provide an accurate reading of the Bible? Or, I mean, obviously he was trying to be provocative with this.
All right. Well, I agree with that. Gavin, give us your reaction. You're muted.
Yeah.
I actually thought he was just speechless.
So, yeah, I agree with what you said there, Luke. There's no reason that somebody, being saved by, Jesus said, whoever believes in me has eternal life. And there's no reason that somebody who accepts that and gets saved by it would have to be, a sheep who never resists authority or slavishly.
I think Luke has been paused.
He obeys the government. I mean, the Bible does tell us to obey the government, but
well, okay, so
within a certain scope. And there's actually, some of the modern versions of the Bible have been mistranslated to make those commands seem even more obedient than.
I mean, the CIA actually has sort of a cottage industry, or they used to. I don't know. Maybe they're done with it now. But in like the 60s and 70s, they had a cottage industry of Bible translations. And they translated into a lot of Latin American indigenous languages. And in one version, which was distributed to some indigenous people in Paraguay, they translated one of these lines about that's something like obey the worldly authorities. I don't know it. I'm not Christian. I just know these things very broadly and with poor memory. And they translated as obey the military government as they are God's representative on earth.
And then they actually are. Another reason to use Byzantine-based Bibles like the King James.
Yeah, because the King James Bible never mistranslated anything for political reasons. Like, King James did not have any conflicts of interest there.
But let me start with the good in this song. The singing and piano playing are pretty decent.
Okay, is that going to be the only good?
And I have to say,
forget the words. It's a great song.
Local Christian praises satanic song, right?
Yeah.
I'm not as offended as I thought I was going to be, at least not until the third verse, because honestly.
Which is interesting, because the third verse is all stuff that you would think, is he pissed off about the fact that it mentions that Christianity was spread through extreme violence, and the heretics being burned and tortured, and the butchering bloody crusaders, the bombs and rockets sanctified that rained down death from heaven? Like, is that the bit he's pissed off about? Which, I mean, is like, you can, okay, I have absolutely no dog in the race of whether this depiction of Judas is biblically accurate. I don't give a shit. It was clearly meant to be provocative, a provocative interpretation of a thing. but you can't really disagree with the accuracy of the summary of how Christianity has been spread worldwide that is in that final verse.
I've heard stuff like this my whole life from secularists and progressive Christians. It turns out Leon Roycelson was in fact Jewish, but honestly,
okay, here we go.
People are or not. There's a lot of people who seem to have this view, and I guess I found it a little bit refreshing, the fact that he was open about the fact that he thinks Jesus was the good guy and he thinks Judas was the good guy and that Jesus was bad.
I mean, it's worth noting, for the most part, you really do not actually hear most people who are non-Christians have any particular horse in that race. Like, he seems to be assuming, that this is, that Jews are normally, really quiet, but actually we all are rooting for Judas, and that's not how any of that worked. I mean, for the most part, none of us really give a shit about any of that.
Because I feel like
the people who keep shoving that down our throats are the people who spent 2,000 years calling us Christ killers.
A lot of progressive Christians I know basically think that, but are too much of cowards to say it.
Wait, okay, so progressive Christians are pro-Judas? Okay, so, he says that they're quiet, they're too cowardly to say, really? It couldn't, what?
And they basically think Jesus was a foolish, primitive person who had good intentions, but lived so long ago that he couldn't possibly know what we know, and other...
Well, I mean, he couldn't, because assuming that he did, which is at best debatable, there was a lot of stuff that people who lived then don't know that we know now. Like what Doritos taste like.
Ridiculous, condescending views, blasphemous views like that. So I feel like it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And I feel like this guy is like, okay, I'm a Trotskyist activist, I'm secular, I'm Jewish, I'm atheist, I'm all these things.
I'm a bitch, I'm a lover.
I'm going to be open in your face about it, rather than... Because what the progressive movement...
Now, it's worth noting, this isn't actually... Again, this is not his song. He didn't write it. He performed it.
Done is try to sneak this view into Christianity, and so I'm glad this guy's being open about it.
Who is trying to sneak this view? This is a fascinating conversation. Did you know that there were people who were trying to sneak the pro-Judas view into Christianity? The CPI brings some very interesting folks together. I guess it's probably good on a certain level, because that means that they won't bother the rest of us.
I always, it's interesting because the theory that Judas was a revolutionary.
Is it a theory though? Does anyone actually say this?
Who wanted to overthrow the Romans by force actually goes back to Wilhelm Reda, which looks like Wilhelm W-R-E-D-E. I can type it in the chat. And that's in the 20th century, but I think there may have been some other also German scholars like that guy that might have advocated that in the 1800s, 19th century. So, of course, lots of horrible things have come out of Germany for a long time. No, that's nothing new right there. But including modern critical theory and as well.
Oh yes, with the Frankfurt School. Of course, they're gonna have a go at that.
But this idea that Judas wanted to overthrow the Romans by force, and that he turned Jesus in as an attempt to accelerate the revolution.
Yeah, that was my understanding too, actually, Tomas. At least, to the extent that I know I've heard that in some place.
Some people think some
Again, for the most part, I don't give a shit. I'm only watching this because I'm very interested in what a member of a cult that is literally a CIA front, and a member of a cult that calls everybody else CIA fronts, and the leader of a cult that calls everybody other than itself CIA fronts, have to say about this?
Historians and even some theologians think Judas was an accelerationist who wanted to.
Yeah, yes, of course, because, I mean, obviously, he was almost certainly an adherent of a 21st century ideology, just really, really early. That's how much of an accelerationist he was. He was an accelerationist, like, 2,000 years before anyone even had thought of accelerationism.
Accelerate the revolution against the Roman Empire, and that
Okay, now Caleb has a look of frank consternation.
Jesus was against the violent route. Of course, Jesus was against violence, and I mean, Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight." So, I mean, we can see biblically that there are problems with this view about this German higher.
Well, I mean, actually, that quote, which I had never heard of before, actually kind of fits in fairly well with this song, because if we're accepting that we're supposed to take this song literally, which is like the way both of these guys are doing. I mean, Caleb actually seems to mostly be watching to see what kind of shit gets stirred up. You just see this little grin across his face every few minutes. But that quote, which I'd never heard, like, I've heard the bit about "my kingdom is not of this world." That's a pretty common quote. You hear that all over the place. But the bit about "if it were that, then I would tell people to fight," that actually kind of fits in with what this song is saying then.
One of these German higher criticism views about Jesus and Judas. And I guess I'll say that, just finally, that I always roll my eyes when people say that the gospel was spread by violence.
But it was.
Or that, because I grew up in a community where...
You grew up in a community in Iowa. Now, how do you think the Christianity got to Iowa? Do you think it was just always there? I think there was some violence involved in that.
Most people did not believe in God, but cheered on the Israeli violence and genocide against civilians in Palestine.
Periodic reminder that the Unification Church is also very pro-Israel.
And this idea that religion motivates people to violence,
No, it isn't the idea that religion motivates people to violence. It is simply the historical fact that the way Christianity was spread throughout the world was at gunpoint and at sword point. Like, it is not making a broad claim about, like, religion is inherently violent or anything like that. It is just saying the way Christianity got spread was by, like, threatening to murder people if they didn't become Christians.
More than this idea that Christianity makes people violent any more than any other worldview does, to me, is
that isn't the idea, though.
Not upheld by evidence. And
well, okay, what about the evidence of the... It's more like... He's not saying that Christianity makes people violent, though. He's saying violence makes people Christian. I mean, it's literally the opposite of what he's saying. And again, you do have to reckon with history if you're going to deny that, because, like, I mean, as you point, like, the fucking Crusades, colonization, the Inquisition, for fuck's sake. Like, do we need to keep going?
There's so many people who feel that they are free of Christianity or even free of religion in general, and yet they have the same or worse conquest mindset, except it's worse.
Well, this is just a complete lack of reading comprehension, and that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Let me just say, thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Got off to kind of a rocky start. Ben Shapiro is always such an iffy proposition. Sometimes he's actually... you can get you can get some mileage out of him, but a lot of the time he ends up just being really fucking boring. And let me just say, if you enjoyed the stream and you would like to help me continue to do the things that I do, donations to the crowdfunded translation project are always welcome at the link I am dropping in chat right now. And if you want to read the finished translations, you could do that here. Also, if you want to keep up to date on the recently commenced adventures of Termip, a little guy I invented, you can find them there. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Have a good night. I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Ah, there we go. I got so many fucking windows. I